Hello, everybody. Welcome to fifth virtual EAA Chapter 288 meeting. For those of you that think I should be behind plexiglass, well, here I am. I'm behind plexiglass. That's enough of that. So, as I said, welcome. It's good to see you all. Well, it's good for all you to see me, to know how handsome I still am. If you have any comments, ideas about speakers, or comments about doing these virtuals, please send me an email. That's my email on the screen there. Pretty easy. My name, 7FL6. So I've gotten some really good comments. Been very, very helpful. Tried to incorporate some of the changes that people have asked me to do. So this virtual thing, almost or nearly as described. I don't know how much longer we're going to do this, but hopefully we can get back to meeting again. Matt, can I advance, please? Okay. Remember the good old days? We used to get together with 100 people or so, sometimes even more at Keith's Hangar. And hopefully we can get back to that soon. Because I know a big part of this EAA is the socialization. I love seeing everybody, and I love seeing everybody socialize and have a good time at the meeting. So hopefully we can get back to that. But at least we have the good old World Wide Web. I'm pretty sure that we have some people from Maine watching right now, Indiana, Illinois. I think down at our friends at Massey, I hope you're watching. Scott in Winter Park, and who knows, maybe even Goofy's watching over in the UK, but it's probably past his bedtime. But I guess that's one benefit of doing this virtually, is that people can watch it when they're away. But I sure do miss seeing all you people at these meetings. So, oops. Oh yeah, turn off your cell phone so you don't ring and bother me while we're having this meeting. I'm just kidding. I can't hear them if they do. Thanks to Matt and Dave again, over and over again. Thanks to Matt and Dave for being the virtual team. You know, it takes a lot of setup and coordination for this electronic stuff to work. Dave has to move his airplanes out of the hangar and make all kinds of room for us. So it really couldn't, this couldn't be happening without Dave and Matt participating. So I really appreciate that. So tonight I'm going to kind of do the usual thing. We've got some chapter happenings to talk about. I got some good input for the virtual tour. And then Jeff Rule, or is it Jeff Unruly? I'm just not sure what his real name is. Is he Rule or Unruly? He's going to be our guest speaker tonight. Just a month ago on July 4th, Jeff led a flight of a B-17 and 4 P-51s over the White House on July 4th. And there were 62 airplanes, I think, that participated in that. And Jeff flew pilot in command on the B-17. So he's got a great presentation, talks about everything the planning that needed to be done with that. So he'll be coming up soon. By the way, that's Jeff's B-17, Yankee Lady. This is really here because of the website. I want you to, Rick Weiss does a really great job with our website. There's more and more information on there every day. So you can get the calendar, you can log schedule the simulator. There's a swap shop, builder's log. You can sign up if you want to be a new member. You can even pay your dues. www.eaa288.org. That picture changes frequently, but that is Yankee Lady that Jeff will be speaking about later on tonight. Thank you. Calendar is a little weak from what we're used to having. The the celebration rather for Dennis and Bonnie is still on for October 10th at the Country Club here in Spruce Creek. Then, of course, we've got Thanksgiving and Christmas. But I did get a flyer in the email. There is an Armed Services Appreciation Day going to happen at Gainesville in March of 2021. So this is what the invite looks like. Armed Services Appreciation Day. Put it on the calendar. That gives us something to look forward to up in Gainesville. We've got a Mark Baker from AOPA, Patty Wagstaff, Lights Clean House, and Colonel Joe Kittinger. So they've got quite an event planned, and at least it's something to look forward to coming up in the spring. So that's about the extent of the calendar. Dennis and Bonnie Powell, their niece, has set up a really nice website. Great pictures of those two, and she would like people to RSVP if you plan on attending the memorial service on October 10th. It's a real easy website, dennisandbonnie.com. So if you go on that and sign up, Becky would really appreciate that. Simulator's doing well. Jack Murray's got that thing. I've flown it twice myself, and I have my granddaughter in it this past month. It's working well. Everything is working very well in the sim. So go ahead and take advantage of that. It's a great resource for the chapter. Don't forget Young Eagles. Young Eagles, we can still do individual flights. We probably won't have a large event because of the COVID fears, but you can still do an individual Young Eagles flight. I did one about 2 weeks ago. Jim Clark can give you all the details. That's his phone number and his contact info. So if you have a youngster that wants to go for a ride, individual flights are permitted. The new online program to sign up and get all the paperwork is really easy. So let's go ahead and do some of those. As far as the virtual tour that we started out 5 of these meetings ago, we started out with what's in your garage, what's in your hangar, what's in your living room. That's become pretty popular. I've heard a lot of good comments about that. So I'll go ahead and get started into that. So basically what we boil down to is it's really what's in your toy box. What do you all have in your hangars and in your garages, in your living rooms? That's our toys. When you make your submissions, don't hang on to just airplane stuff. I know for a fact that a lot of people in it have model railroads. They have other things that they've built. Very interesting to builders like us and pilots like us. So please keep those submissions coming in. Before I get started on the actual new submissions, I've had a couple of comments about people who are building RV-14s, or they want to build R-14s. They want to get connected. So this came out as a really good idea that if you're interested in an RV-14, like, thank you, Bob Curley, for sending that great picture of your airplane. If you're like Bob and you've already flown your airplane, or you're just sitting at home with a magazine open and wondering if maybe you should do an RV-14, if you want to be connected with other like-minded RV-14 builders, send me an email. I'll put a little group together and send it out to you guys. And in fact, that works for anything. We've got, I know of at least 3 RANs right now that projects are either under construction or going to be beginning. It could work for avionics if you're a dynon person and you want to connect with someone else for dynons. So if you want to start a little group like that and you want to connect with people who have other knowledge and swap stories and swap expertise, because, hey, let's face it, Chapter 288, that's what we're all about, is swapping our expertise and our knowledge and having fun. So again, this whole topic came up because of RV-14 Builders Group, but it'll work for anything. And again, thanks, Bob Curley, for sending that picture on short notice so I could use that. That's my email, my name, 7fl6@gmail. Now, there isn't a builders group for one of these. For the Jodel, I think I said that right, Jodel D11. We featured this last month because Bill Wallace and Jim Gouldy put this airplane together. It was 50 years old. It won Best of Show at Sun and Fun a couple of years ago. I'm using this again because Bill Wallace has a Tomahawk that he rebuilt. And he wanted to prove to some friends that sweat and horse training, you could have a primary trainer for less than $15,000. He managed to do that, including ATSB. It took 3 years for him to complete the project. It's been used for at least 5 people to earn private instrument ratings. So when he got the airplane, like he says on the side, every project has unexpected challenges. This one was no exception. The airplane had been disassembled, stored for 20 years. There was also a break in the possession paperwork trail that he had to get straightened out with the FAA. But he took this project on. That's his granddaughter helping him, so there's some inexpensive labor, but I'm sure she got to fly the airplane after it's all put back together. There's a look at it after his efforts. I've seen this airplane on the field here at Spruce Creek and probably seen it in other places as well if you've been around very much. But that was Bill's submission for this month. But more than that, and this is the EAA, especially the 288 spirit, Bill would welcome helping anyone to get into an airplane for less than the cost of a decent used pickup truck. Now, Jim Clark, if you're listening, you have to drop the prices on your pickup trucks because we want to be able to build an airplane for less than you want to sell us a pickup truck for. So $15,000, he restored this airplane, including avionics. Craig Cousins is building an RV-14R. That's the retract version. If you look on the panel there on the right side, just to the right of the radio sack down low, you'll see 3 greens. So I was in his hangar, or in his garage, because that's where his project is. I was in his garage the other day, and he was doing some retract tests. So here's what that looks like. There's the, obviously the gear's up right now, so he's going to put the gear down. So let's see what happens. And there you go, 3 greens. Successful test of an RV-14-R. So for your RV-14 wannabes, talk to Craig. He'll show you how to make it a retractable airplane. Ted Chang's RV-10. Ted, well, I get the next slide. Ted started construction in February of 2019. First flight was July 23rd of this year. He had 40 hours completed on August 10th of 2020. So about 18 months, Ted went from the boxes arrived in his hangar and he had his 40 hours completed. So for that, the chapter likes to give out first flight awards. So that's Ted and his wife, Lee Finn. A couple days ago, we gave this award. That's what it looks like up close. Just so you know, that picture there of the F-16, that was Ahmed. Ahmed passed away last week, but he was as well as being a F-16 and a Gulfstream pilot, he was an exceptional artist. So that was Ahmed's picture of an F-16. The really nice part about this is I got my first ride in an RV-10 with Ted this morning. So Ted, thanks a lot. I really enjoyed it. RV-10's a great airplane. It's got a lot of room in it for a big guy like me. So that was really a lot of fun. Congratulations, Ted and Lee Finn, on completing a successful flight of your RV-10. John Carpenter, he's got that Javelin Super Cub kind of across from the downwind. He started out and he wrote a little bit of write-up about this. Thanks his wife, Denise, because she likes to fly low and slow over the ocean. So she was on board with the Cub right from the beginning. Built a Cub with the extra wide fuselage, 200 horsepower Lycoming, Kato 84-inch prop. Garmin G3X with vertical, and extra shocks to smooth out his landings. And says he couldn't have done this by himself. Joe Salomon, Russ Whiting, Joey Salomon, Bob Timpo, gives a lot of credit to a lot of people who helped him build it. And he gives a whole lot of credit to Jim Gouldy for helping him do his tailwheel training and tailwheel landing. So that's that 200 horsepower Lycoming 360. I'd love to put something like that in the Tiger, especially with an 84-inch prop, but I don't know if I'd have the ground clearance. So I guess I just have to stick with what we have in the Tiger. If you look at his hangar, there's an RV-10 in the back, the Cubs in the front, and he's thinking about building a 14. So he's one of those guys that would like to connect with other people who have RV-14 experience. And again, congratulations to John Carpenter. This first flight took place back in December, but we're finally getting around to acknowledging his first flight. Doug Goldman. Doug Goldman restored a 1947 Stinson. He drove up, I believe, in Alabama. The airplane was in boxes. Brought it back in a box truck like that. Kind of looks like he's getting some work out of Ralph. I don't know how he did that. Ralph doesn't like to work too much. But anyway, when they brought it home, unloaded it, put it in his hangar, he already had a Stinson in his hangar, so why not have another one? This particular Stinson came with an STC for the Continental 470 engine and a Macaulay constant speed prop out of a 182. So you take a Stinson that has normally, I believe, 165 horse and you put a 230 in it, you can imagine the happenings. While you're looking at this, look to the right there and see where the American flag is. See all the pictures on the wall there? I'll get to those in a minute, but this is the inside of Doug's hangar. So he built his own paint booth, painted those airplanes up, worked on it inside his hangar over there. Just barely enough room for 2 Stinsons. In fact, one of them he had to leave the left aileron off just to be able to get both airplanes in the hangar. He's found a second home for one of his airplanes, so only one of the Stinsons is in the hangar right now. I think I saw him flying that this morning. Doug's wife made the custom interior. Looks beautiful. Came out very, very nice. Obviously, they worked on this together. That's that old 470 crammed into there. But can you imagine the horsepower that thing has compared to what the Franklin had? So that's that Continental 470 in there. First flight, July 30th. Says performance with the old 470 was amazing compared to the other Stinson with a 165 Franklin. I can imagine. There's his two Stinsons that he has right now, the 1947, a 108-2 and a 108-1. I don't know who Pat and Andy Curry are, but apparently they used to live here at the creek, and that Stinson on the right used to belong to Pat and Andy, so that's probably before I came here. But that's some of Doug's handiwork right there. But that wall I was talking about, there's 20 pictures of airplanes on that wall. Doug has refurbished, rebuilt, reconstituted, whatever you want to call it, over 20 airplanes. There's even one down there that's on the cover of Cessna Pilots Association. So I don't see there's two Stinsons on there, but that is remarkable how much work he's done and with what precision. So for that, Doug, congratulations again. Let's have a round of applause for Ted and Doug, John, everybody who finished. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Everybody who did successful flights and restorations and building of their own airplanes. So it's really great that Chapter 288 is so talented. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to my friend Jeff Ruley here in a moment. That's you. That's your cue. Yeah, no. As I said earlier, this past July 4th, I think it was 62 airplanes flew over just south of the White House in Washington, D.C. President was on the ground looking up, and these guys had to hit timing, they had to hit holding. So I'm going to have Jeff talk about that. But before I do that, it's not advancing. There we go. One more click, and whoops, too far. This is what it looked like from the ground. That's Jeff in the B-17 in the lead with the two P-51s on his wing. Now, this flyby, did it stop? There it goes. This flyby lasted about a minute, but the preparation for this 1 minute of his flight was just enormous. So come up here, my friend. Come up here. We're talking about you. That's you right there. See that? That's you. So you didn't get, no. Whoops, it stopped again. There it goes. And you can hear people on the ground applauding and cheering as these airplanes flew over. Thanks to Ted Chang for taking this 50 seconds of video out of a big chunk of video. I had no idea how to do it, but Ted did. That advances the slides, that backs them up.
Where's the ejection button?
The ejection button, yeah. So here you go. All right, Jeff. Thank you. I'll move the plastic for you. You can drop that down. There's Jeff's flyby.
Thank you, John. That was the most incredible undertaking I've ever been involved in. We flew 61 aircraft, if F-86 mechanicaled out, so we lost one. But 61 aircraft in 27 flights in 9 years. Someone up in Washington decided that they were going to put on an air show on the 4th of July, a flyover. And they brought in the all-star team. They brought Wade Boggs in to be our air boss. Rob Ryder, he's an all-star announcer. He does a wonderful job. And then the Air Force crew that came in. The head man that was in charge of organizing this, and it took months and months to organize, was General Beazell, and he handed it off to Lieutenant Colonel Chris Nike Michelair. Nike is a graduate of the Air Force Academy, has super people skills, real organization skills, and he brought this team in to organize this. For the civilian aircraft, he brought in Connie Bolin, who is the president of EAA Warbird Association. She actually flew number 2 Mustang on my wing that day, and she collected all the civilian aircraft together, organized it all, went and got private funding to pay for all the aircraft, and got us all the logistics in getting everybody into hotels and everything. And there's Nike. Good guy, really sharp. The complication of running 61 airplanes through P-56, which is the White House, incredibly complicated. The FAA owns it. So we had to get waivers, or Nike had to get all the paperwork and the waivers to bring these kind of airplanes right over top of the White House. And we also had to shut down DC for an hour. And then waivers for all the routings and holding patterns to put everybody in line to go through. 27 flights. Each flight had to be 3 minutes apart for Rob, the announcer, to talk about each flight. So it's 27 flights by 3 minutes. And of course, each flight was only over the White House for a minute. Here's our aerial control team, and you can see the boss up there, Mission Commander General Beesdale. And each one of these gentlemen, you can see the different jobs they had. Drago 1 was established time over show. We had the president talking, so times had to be adjusted to meet his speeches. Nike directed the formations, and then we had the guys that really did the work were the Potomac air traffic controllers. Once we were all organized, they controlled us all, and they did a wonderful job. Well, the mission was to go over at a certain time, right over a show center with 3-minute intervals. We had aircraft that had different speeds, different pilots, and different weights. So it got a little bit complicated, but we had a lot of support. I'm going through the briefing cards now, and every time we had a different slide for briefing, the Nike got up and talked about it, and then we had the FAA come in and put their information in, and then we had ATC come in and talk. So this was a 75-page briefing pamphlet, and the briefing for this flight took 2.5 hours. There's our admin page. All these pages were this is a copy of our briefing. And for instance, we had to announce anywhere we were and be in our holding patterns 20 minutes before our IP. This talks about the communications with ATC. Each flight was each air traffic controller controlled 2 flights. So we had numerous air traffic controllers running us. We were always watched and made sure we were on time, on altitude, and in the position from the flight we're following. And that's talking about our sequencing, fuel planning, etc. This is a good slide. It shows our holding patterns. Though we were in the west holding pattern, those were most of the civilians. I wish I could see that. But I was at 3,000 feet, and I had a B-52 right above me and a B-1 up there above him, and F-22s and F-35s. And I think the top of the stack were the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels. Over to the east, we had east holding pattern and then the helicopter holding pattern. So the air traffic controllers were sequencing us, so we all had 3 minutes apart. There were a lot of airplanes, 61 airplanes in the air. Here's our holding pattern. Oh, there it is. West holding pattern. I was flying Atlantic 2-1. The eras there are the The first flights were the Atlantic flights in World War II. The second one was there's NAM. We're missing one. There's Pacific flights in World War II, and then we had the Korean flights, and then we had the NAM flights, Storm flights, Terror flights, Future flights, and then the Birds and the Blues. And this is just the stack for the West flight. So at 3,000, we had two C-47s. They were right below me. The next one was Atlantic 2-1. That was our B-17, and then 4 P-51s. And then the NAM flight, the 52, was up at 5. And then we got F-15s at 6, B-1 bomber at 7, A-10s at 8, KC-46 at 9. The B-2 is at 10. The F-22 is 11. The F-35s were at 12. And then the Birds were at 13, and the Blues at they're at 14. So what they're doing is we had a holding pattern with a holding pattern point, and it's called a push point. And if we had to adjust the schedule due to the president going long on a speech, and that did happen, we had to push the whole thing 10 minutes. So we're out making our adjustments in the holding pattern. Once we get cleared by Drago in, we have a time we need to hit our IP, and then you have to be on your altitude, your airspeed, and hit show center within, we hit it within about 20 seconds, so when we were supposed to be in. Got lucky. Here's the waypoints, all the holding patterns, and our IPs, the halo pattern. Here's a picture of our overall routing. All the civilians came out of Manassas and held out at the west pattern, and we had a nice, clear, straight shot into show center. There's our weather ops. Everybody had to have a little, get their 2 cents in there. Drago, ATC, and the FAA, and we had weather minimums we had to do, and we lucked out. They're forecast to have some scattered cumulus, but we had nice clear weather for the flyover. Here's the Warbird timetable. All the flights are listed. There's all the times and altitudes and airspeeds for the holding fixes, the IP, and initial run-in to the show center. All right, these are more timelines. Each era had their own timelines. It was quite a enterprise to get everybody in on time selected, and we're all different speeds. Here's the start of the route. Oh, they gave us visual points. They gave us markers. They gave us GPS points, and they gave us points defined by VORs and DME. So there's no way you could get lost or get out of position. And here's our west route influx. West holding. There's our holding point. I'm not going to go through the east and the helicopter holding points. I'll just talk about the points we were doing. There's the GPS numbers for our hold point and for our IP. We do have a Garmin 530 in the B-17, so it makes it a little bit easier to get around instead of doing VORs and ADFs. And as you can see, depicted altitudes are planned. And are holding in Tricon at the altitude they tell you. Left-hand turns, 10-mile legs. And as you depart the holding pattern, they keep dropping the stack down. At all times, we were cleared to 1,500 feet, and we were not allowed to descend to 1,000 feet until we had visual contact with the flight in front of us. There's the visual references for the west holding flight. That's out south of Manassas. And they went out and took these pictures so you had some really good reference points. There was no reason not to be exactly where you needed to be on time. Here's the visual points. We started down at the substation and came up and hit the Castle Church. You can see the Davis helicopter port, and they're really well marked. And there's the route beginning. There's the Castle Church. Can't miss it. Should be right off your left wing as you go inbound. Of course, we're right. Everybody has GPS in their airplane, so you're sitting there following a nice straight line. Oh. And of course, off your right side, Davis Airfield. These, I'm just showing you the fixes that we were using inbound to back up the GPS. And there's the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. They do all the intelligence on satellite pictures and stuff like that. And that's a big building. You can't miss that. And that's exactly how it looks out of the cockpit. And then we go to the middle route. The mixing bowl, you can't miss that. Now, in the briefing, Nike's briefing all of this, and you're following it through, and by the time you get in the airplane, you go, wow, that does look like a mixing bowl. Everything was really very well organized. And I could see Nike organizing a mission overseas somewhere, a bombing mission or something, and this is the kind of briefing they do. Here's the Mark Center. That's an intelligence building too. There's our last really good mark, the Sheraton. If you come out of the Sheraton and aim for the big orange roof, the northwest corner of the Smithsonian, which is an orange roof, it takes you right over Show Center. Gives you, now we're at 1,000 feet now, it gives you room on the Washington Monument, which is 600 feet. And when you have 2 aircraft on each wing, you got to be aware of your altitude, how far they're out, because you may go over Show Center, but if you run somebody over top of the White House, they're not happy with you. There's F-16 right above you watching you. This is our route end. There's a good picture. Coming off the Sheraton, you're looking right at the Washington Monument, and you're aiming right at the northwest corner of the Smithsonian. Now the Show Center, that green circle there, that's called the ellipse. And our Show Center is right there. And just north of that is another big round field, and that's the South Lawn, and then the White House. We're not allowed to fly over the White House. You're not allowed to open your bomb bays. You're not allowed to fly over the Capitol. And you're not allowed to squawk VFR, or you're in trouble. There's some of our straight-in route from the west, and here comes the east guys coming up right behind us over there. And that's pointing out the Washington Monument right there, 595. We go right between that and the Lincoln Memorial up the Show Center. This is the RTBs, return to base. Once we hit Show Center, what we have to do is automatically go to our return to base frequency. And as you can see, we return to Manassas at 1,500 feet and 2105. And those are civilian warbirds. We all went back to Manassas. There's the helos went back to Andrews. As we return to base, one flight will turn to the north, left turn to the north, and the next flight turns to the south and circles down south of D.C. So nobody's running into the back of anybody on the return to base. Here's the B-52. He's going back to Minot, North Dakota. The helos all went back to Davidson Field. The 15s went back to Seymour Johnson. The Ospreys went to Quantico. The B1 went back to Abilene. Some of these aircraft flew in and flew this overflight and went right back to where they were. The Blue Angels and the Thunderbirds came out of Boston that morning and did a flyover in Boston. No, I think they came out of Westover Air Force Base. They did a flyover at Boston, a flyover at New York, a flyover at Philadelphia, and then came down and got in a holding pattern and flew this flight. All the civilians had private funding, corporate and private people. All the military aircraft, this was built into their normal monthly training program. So there were no additional costs to do this flyover. The 46, KC-46 went to Wichita, Kansas. The B-2 went back to Montana. The 22s went to Langley, and the 35s went over to Andrews. Some of them took some pretty good rides after the show. Because, the Blues went to Pensacola and the Thunderbirds went back to Langley. Just like this little presentation, we didn't get any rehearsals. We were briefed, and we went out, and we had to do it right the first time. The military guys, they do this every month. That's a regular bombing mission for them. For the B-2 to come down from Minot or something and do a low pass on the White House, no big deal. They go over Afghanistan and back. But we had to kind of pay attention. And I had 3 other pilots in the cockpit with me and a mechanic, and they were watching for other aircraft. Plenty of information. They did a real nice job. The waivers we had to get, everything we did, the FAA had approved waivers. In our briefing, we were told to set our altimeters at 0. However, FAA guy stands up and goes, "You don't have that waiver." So after a short discussion, we just used the DCA altimeter. But they're on top of everything. Before we could fly, 3 weeks before, we had to get vetted by the FBI and Secret Service. Pilot's license, medicals, driver's license, passports. And then they rechecked us when we got to Manassas. And we were there for 3 days. And the day before, they came out and checked all the airplanes. We got armbands that we were checked, and they locked down the ramp so nobody could get in there. So security was pretty tight. Yeah. There was a little, the airport police kind of were like a little lower than the TSA guys, and then the Secret Service guys were on the top of the list, and they don't all get along. They kind of look down at each other. It was fun to see their interaction. This was very well planned, and it went off perfect, except for the F-86 mechanicaled out. But it went well. I didn't realize how much time and work it took to organize an operation like that, and what it took to fly 61 airplanes through P-56, which is the White House. It was serious stuff. I think somebody way, way up at the top of the heap proved that, and closed down DCA for an hour to make this happen. We had no mechanicals, no issues. It went well. There we go. Hey, these military guys, when they plan these missions, they plan for every single condition that can happen. We had something called the Capital Scram. wherever you were, you turned and put capital on your tail and flew away from it. Put it at 6 o'clock. We had something called a spin, which you maintain, wherever you are, you maintain your hold. We had an abort, where you turn back to your holding point, and then we had the blow through, where you just picked up speed and blew right through the hole and went back to, and got out of the area if something was going on at the Capitol. We had contingency plans for weather, for mechanicals, any of these issues. They planned right down to everything. And luckily, nothing happened, but that's what makes up a 2.5-hour briefing. They're very good. I was really impressed. And then things that we had to report, any unmanned aerial system, any laser activity, any change in your flight plan, aircraft falling out, and they're really stress safety. They're good. And I kind of compare this 2.5-hour briefing to what we do at the tree on Saturday mornings. Ours are a little bit shorter, but not much. Let's see, lost communications, backup frequencies, all that kind of stuff. What are we looking at now? 8. And there we go. What did I miss?
I think you did great. Thank you, Jeff. We're showing that 1 minute flyby. One more time. It's done? Oh, okay. I got one thing that I wanted to do. Jeff, I heard that you were interested in learning how to fly helicopters. Is that true, Jeff? Is that true?
Tony Crawford held me down with my arm behind my back until I...
Okay, well, the chapter wants to give you a gift for your presentation tonight. So what we'd like you to do is, we'd like to have you have your own training aid. So this may make you a better helicopter pilot.
Really?
Really?
Nice. Hey, eat your heart out.
Yeah, so thank you very much for your presentation.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. I got just like 2 more slides, Matt. There you go. There's a look at B-29 from the cockpit of a B-17. And that's Yankee Lady, and I'll say this, I did get a ride in that airplane about 2 years ago up at the museum up in Willow Run. Jeff was the PIC again, and it was just a great experience to ride in that airplane and try to step back 70 years or so and put yourself like a 21-year-old person in that airplane and all that they went through. So it's a fantastic opportunity. If you get a chance, you get a chance to ride with Jeff, I guarantee you're going to get a ride you'll never forget. So all of this, EAA, we call this the spirit of aviation. Everything we've talked about today, spirit of aviation, from the home builders, to people like Jeff that fly B-17s. We love our EAA. So stay tuned for the next meeting. It's going to be on September 17th. It'll probably be virtual. Before you go, put the chairs away. Remember, cleanup tomorrow's at 9 o'clock, sharp. Oh, I'm just really clowning around. So thank you all for watching. One more slide, I think. No more slides? One more. Whoops. Here we go. It's skipping, Matt. There we go. Anyway, that's our chapter. Fly safe. Look out for one another. Have a great night. See you around, and see you in a month or so. And thanks again to Jeff Ruhl, our guest speaker. He did a fantastic job, Jeff. Very good. Thank you.